When we first began, it felt like I had stumbled into something rare, something that only happens once in a lifetime. She carried a warmth with her that drew me in instantly. Her laughter was contagious, her timing perfect, and somehow she always knew how to ease my worries. She would call me in the middle of the day, not for anything important, but just because she wanted to hear my voice. She would send little photos or thoughtful notes that made me feel like I was the center of her world. Nights would pass where we'd talk endlessly, about everything that mattered and about nothing at all. Yet it always felt meaningful. Back then, I believed with all my heart that I had finally found someone who understood me, someone I could build something lasting with. But as time went on, there was a shift. At first, it was barely noticeable. She started to respond to my messages with short replies, sometimes only a single word. Other times, no reply would come at all. When I asked if she was free to meet, she would brush it off with reasons that sounded valid. Work piling up, not feeling well, just needing to rest. And I believed her, because I wanted to believe her. I told myself life had simply become hectic, that it was unfair to demand her time when she was stretched thin. I convinced myself that patience was the right choice, that love wasn't about doubting but trusting, even in silence. Still, the pattern deepened. Plans we made would dissolve at the last moment. I would set aside evenings, choosing restaurants, looking forward to her company, only to receive a message an hour before that she couldn't make it. When I offered to be there for her during her low moments, she would tell me she preferred to be alone. I began to notice that she always seemed to have time for others, nights out with friends, laughing and smiling in photos posted online, yet somehow never the same time for me. Slowly, the relationship started to feel one-sided. I was the one waiting, the one asking, the one making room, while she was the one closing doors. I asked her if something was wrong, if I had done something to push her away. She laughed softly, brushing it off as my imagination. She told me she loved me, that nothing had changed, that she just needed a little space. So I gave it to her. I gave her patience when my chest felt heavy. I gave her understanding even as I sat staring at my phone, wishing she would be the first to reach out. I gave her silence on nights I stood outside places where we had planned to meet, only to find myself waiting alone. I convinced myself this was what love demanded. To endure, to hold on, to fight for someone even when it hurt. Then there was the night she said she had a migraine and couldn't talk. I told her to rest, told her it was okay, and hung up the phone. Restless, I went for a walk, hoping the air would clear my mind. My steps carried me without thought to the cafe where we had first met, the place that had once felt like the start of everything. I wasn't expecting anything, just a quiet corner to breathe. But as I stepped inside, there she was. She wasn't alone. She was sitting across from another man, her fingers laced with his, her head thrown back in laughter that was so familiar, so intimate. It cut me deeper than any argument ever could. The lightness in her face, the ease in her smile. It was the same warmth she used to give me, only now it was his. I didn't interrupt. I didn't speak or make a scene. I simply turned around and left, carrying with me the weight of every canceled plan, every excuse, every cold reply that now made perfect sense. She wasn't too tired. She was just too tired of me. She wasn't too busy. She had simply chosen not to make time for me. That night, I stopped waiting. I stopped asking. I stopped showing up where I was no longer wanted. I didn't block her, didn't send furious messages, didn't demand answers. I just let go. From then on, I poured my energy back into myself. I went out again, rediscovered laughter in the company of people who genuinely cared to see me. I stopped staring at my phone, stopped scrolling through her social media, stopped wondering why. Each day grew lighter, each night easier. Sleep returned. Smiles returned. I began to recognize the person I had been before her, someone who had worth and joy outside of her presence. 2 weeks later, she reached out. A message lit up my screen. She said she missed me, asked if I was okay, pointed out how quiet I had gone. I looked at her words, and for the first time, there was no rush of emotion, no desperate need to respond, no ache in my chest. The version of her I had been holding on to was already gone. Long before that night at the cafe, what I had been clinging to wasn't her. It was a memory, an illusion of who she once was to me. And now that the illusion had shattered, I realized I didn't need explanations. I didn't need closure. She had slipped away quietly, step by step, excuse by excuse. So I left just as quietly, with no words left to give. My silence became the answer to all the questions she never asked and the truth I never needed to speak. Sometimes the strongest act of love toward yourself is to stop appearing for someone who no longer sees your presence as a gift. The day I stopped showing up for her was the day I found myself again. And for the first time in a long time, I genuinely liked the person I saw.